Life as We Knew It by Susan Beth Pfeffer. Chapter 6, page 96, June 24th. I'm so angry at Mom I could scream, and it doesn't help that she's as mad at me as I am at her. The day started out great, too. The sun was shining, perfect swimming weather. There was enough bread left for each of us to have a slice for breakfast. Mom brought in a few strawberries from the garden, and we each had two. I went to the pond, and I didn't even mind that Karen and Emily were there. We swam, we raced, we had fun. I guess they figured out something's going on with Dan and me, because when we got out of the pond, they made themselves scarce. Dan and I took our walk in the woods. When we're together like that, I feel as though everything is going to work out. I like to think I help him feel that way also. Dan walked me home, and we ran into Mom in the driveway. I'm off to get gas, she said. Dan, would you like a lift into town? Dan said yes, and I asked if I could go too. Mom said sure. We'd be picking up Mrs. Nesbit also. She wanted to go to the library. There are 2 gas stations in town that still have gas. The way it works is you get in line and then you prepay. It's $12 a gallon or $35 for 3 gallons, exact change only, and a maximum of 3 gallons. It usually takes about an hour to get the gas, and then you drive to the other gas station and get 3 gallons there. Then if you have the time and the money, you go back to the first gas station and start all over again. So while Mom is waiting in line, there's plenty of time to go to the library or do anything else you want to do. A lot of times Mom drops Matt and Johnny off at the park and they find a pickup game of baseball while Mom does the gas lines. But since we were all sure it was going to rain, they decided to skip the trip. So there was room for Mrs. Nesbit and Dan and me. Mom got into the gas line, and Mrs. Nesbit, Dan, and I walked over to the library. There's very little that's still open in town, so the library has gotten real popular. Of course, it's not the same way it used to be either. With no electricity, things are pretty dark, and they can't scan the books, so you're on an honor system. $4 to a customer, and they trust you to return them as soon as you can. We have lots of books at home, but Mom's been urging Matt and Johnny and me to use the library as much as possible. I guess she's afraid it won't stay open that much longer. We all found books to take out. I put Mrs. Nesbit's and my books in my book bag. Dan and I kissed in the stacks, and then when we left the library, he started walking toward his home, and Mrs. Nesbit and I started back to the gas station to keep Mom company while she waited. Only, as we were walking, we saw a long line in the elementary school playground. There were maybe 50 people in the line, and we noticed a couple of state troopers standing around making sure people stayed in place. I ran over to see what was going on. They're giving away food, a man told me. 1 bag per household. I waved Mrs. Nesbit over and got her a place in the line. I'm going to get Dan, I told her. We'll meet you back here. So I ran, and I do mean ran, towards Dan's home. It didn't take me long to find him and explain what was going on. We both ran back to the playground. By the time we got there, Mrs. Nesbit was about 20 people ahead of us. I knew we couldn't just cut in line and join her, but we yelled so that she knew we were there. It wasn't bad in the line, maybe because the troopers saw to it that we behaved ourselves. Any kids who might have been whining played with the slides and swings instead, and it was fun watching them have a good time. We were all excited about giving food, even if we didn't know what exactly to expect. It kind of felt like Christmas shopping. Every now and again, one of the troopers would explain the rules to us. 1 bag per household. All the bags were identical. Make any trouble, and no bag. No cost, but a thank you would be appreciated. Even when it began to rain, we didn't mind. It was a gentle summertime kind of rain, and since it's so humid, we hoped the rain would clear things up and the weather would turn nice again. Dan and I held hands and giggled and enjoyed being together. We edged forward and we cheered when Mrs. Nesbit finally got into the school. We cheered again when she emerged carrying a bag. We finally got in ourselves. There were other troopers in the school clearly guarding the bags. It was scary seeing them with real guns. But everyone was very well behaved. When you got to the front of the line, you had to show an ID that had your address on it. Luckily, Dan and I both had our library cards with us. We were each handed a plastic bag and told to leave, which we did. When we walked out, we saw the troopers were telling people not to get in line. The supplies were running out. We found Mrs. Nesbit standing just outside the playground. "There's rice," she said, "and beans and all kinds of goodies." I was so excited that I flat out kissed Dan right in front of Mrs. Nesbit. Not that she seemed shocked. Dan gave me a hug and said goodbye. "My mom is going to be so happy," he said, which pretty much summed it up. "Maybe there'll be more," I said. "Maybe this is the start of better times." "Let's hope so," she said. He said. He gave me one more kiss, and then he started back to his house. I took Mrs. Nesbit's bag, and we began walking back to the gas station. I couldn't get over how excited Mom was going to be when she saw I was bringing food. It was about a half-mile walk to the gas station, and the gentle rain had become heavy with distant thunderstorms. I told Mrs. Nesbit I wished I had an umbrella for her, but she just laughed. "I won't melt," she said. When we got to the gas station, we couldn't find Mom's car, which meant she was already on her way to the second gas station. That added another 5 blocks to the walk, and Mrs. Nesbit and I were drenched by the time we finally found her, but it didn't matter. Rice and beans and powdered milk and salt and box soup mix and dehydrated vegetables and cornflakes and lime jello. Mom only had a 10-car wait by the time we got there. I was so wet anyway, I volunteered to get out and pay, which I did. It feels so funny to go into the convenience store and see completely empty shelves and signs saying, "Cashier is armed and trained to shoot." I guess Mrs. Nesbit told Mom all about the food and the line while I was paying for the gas. All I know, Mom was in a great mood before I left the car, and she was very quiet by the time I got back in. I don't know if Mom felt 6 gallons was enough for one day, or if she wanted to get Mrs. Nesbit home because she was so wet, but we drove straight back and dropped Mrs. Nesbit off. Any effort Mom might have made to seem social while Mrs. Nesbit was still in the car ended as soon as it was just the two of us. "What?" I said when we were finally alone. "What did I do this time?" "We'll discuss it inside," she said. Her teeth were so clenched she could have been a ventriloquist. We walked into the kitchen and I flung the book bag and the grocery bag on the table. "I thought you'd be happy," I said. "We have all this food now. What did I do wrong?" "Sometimes I just don't understand you," she said, like I was the mystery creature. "You saw everyone standing in line, and what did you do?" "I got in line," I said. "Wasn't that what I was supposed to do?" "You left Mrs. Nesbit and went to get Dan," Mom said. "That seems to be the part you're forgetting." "Right," I said. "I ran to get Dan, and then we got right in line." "And what if they'd run out of food by the time you got back?" Mom asked. "What would have happened then?" "Then we wouldn't have gotten all this great stuff," I said. "Rice and beans and lime jello. I didn't know they were going to run out of food so soon. Besides, what difference does it make? They didn't run out of the food, and he got food to take home, and so did I, and so did Mrs. Nesbit. I don't see what you're so mad about." "How often do I have to explain this to you?" Mom asked. "Family is all that matters. Dan has to worry about his family, and you have to worry about yours. And before you even begin to say something about Peter, he's brought us food every time he's come here, and the least I could do is give him some bread in return." I would have brought up Peter, too, if she hadn't. Even I knew better than to say Mrs. Nesbit wasn't family. "There was enough for all of us," I said. "Pure luck," Mom said. "I will not have Johnny or Matt or you starve because you want to include a friend. This isn't the time for friendships, Miranda. We have to watch out only for ourselves." "That's not how you brought us up," I said. "Whatever happened to share and share alike?" "Sharing is a luxury," she said. "We can't afford luxuries right now." For a moment, Mom seemed terribly sad instead of angry. I saw an expression in her eyes I remembered from when she and Dad split up. "You think we're going to die," I said. Any sadness immediately evaporated and rage took its place.